TV allows audiences to empathize with even the most villainous characters, despite their actions. Even in a show like The Sopranos, viewers may find themselves rooting for the criminal protagonists. The Sopranos is a masterful portrayal of morally corrupt individuals. Each character is deeply flawed, with a history of violence and exploitation. When considering their actions objectively, it's difficult to determine which Sopranos character is the most heinous. But today, I have chosen to focus on one particular character. Today I'm talking about Livia Soprano, the mother of mob boss Tony Soprano. We all know she was terrible towards her children, but one question still lingers. Was Livia Soprano a psychopath? Let's find out together. To understand the mind of a psychopath, it's important to look at their upbringing first. Livia grew up in a poor family and, as a consequence, had a bad childhood. But while a lot of people overcome the hardships they've experienced throughout childhood and even manage to move on from it, Livia refused to do so. Instead, she spent her adult life blaming and punishing everyone else for her problems. In order to get out of her parents' house, she married Johnny Boy Soprano and has 3 children with him: Tony Soprano, Janice Soprano, and Barbara Soprano. Despite giving birth 3 times, Livia still shows no interest in housework or motherhood. Even though her husband provided enough, Livia always complained that what he brought in wasn't good enough, and always nagged him to earn more. But when Johnny Boy decided to take his wife's advice and move the family to Nevada, Livia vehemently opposed it. Despite always talking bad about her husband, we saw a change in Livia after Johnny Boy passed away. But as she aged, she got worse. She became increasingly suspicious and abusive of those around her and believed her own children were plotting against her. Livia seeks revenge against her son Tony after he decides to place her in a retirement home. She tells her brother-in-law Junior that Tony is seeing a psychiatrist and that he sold the family house, even suggesting that Tony may be plotting against him. Together with Junior, Livia would go on and plan a hit on her own son Tony, but once the hit fails, she feigns memory loss. Later, while Olivia is in a nursing home, she tells Artie that Tony caused the fire that destroyed his restaurant, which is interpreted as another attempt to have Tony killed. Tony later discovers through FBI recordings that Livia was the one who instigated the hit on him. When he visits her at the nursing home, he learns that Livia had a stroke after watching the news on TV. While Tony originally contemplated suffocating his mother, he changed his plans upon hearing the news and confronts Livia instead, as she is being taken to the hospital. The confrontation ends badly, with Tony threatening to kill her. After another confrontation with Tony and Janice leaving, Livia is left in the care of a Russian woman named Svetlana. Livia eventually dies in her sleep from a massive stroke. Tony eventually visits Livia's gravesite and forgives her for her actions. Livia's younger self is featured in flashbacks following her death. It was initially intended for Livia to testify against Tony for giving her stolen airline tickets, but since the actress who played her, Nancy Marchand, passed away, a final scene was written in which Tony interacts with a CGI-inserted Livia before the character died. Tony's therapist, Dr. Melfi, suggests that Livia may have had a borderline or narcissistic personality disorder. Livia also exhibits signs of antisocial personality disorder. However, she does show some care for her grandchildren, such as giving money for Meadows' college education. Janice questions her mother's love for them during a conversation with Carmela, and her therapist suggests that Livia does indeed love them but struggles to express it. Livia was a terrible mother, frequently belittling her children, speaking condescendingly to them, and making their lives difficult. She once said that she viewed children as animals, and that they needed to be taught right from wrong. Her behavior caused her children to cut off contact with her, including Tony, who had tried to be a good son and provide for her. Livia Soprano was a shrewd, cunning, and extremely self-centered person who gained pleasure from causing misery to those around her, particularly her children. She was also ungrateful for Tony's efforts to take care of her and accused her children of being ungrateful. She claimed that she gave her life for them, while in reality she did very little for them. Livia exhibited racist tendencies, making derogatory comments about Jewish people and her Haitian nurse, as well as insulting her Irish neighbor. Despite her overall disdain for people, she seemed to enjoy spending time with her grandson AJ, often sharing her nihilistic views on life and playing games with him. Though Livia only appeared in the series for 3 seasons, her influence on Tony's life is a recurring theme throughout the show. Tony struggles to cope with their complicated relationship, as his therapist, Dr. Melfi, urges him to move on, but he's never able to fully do so. Despite her self-perception as a weak and isolated person, Livia Soprano, as the head of the family, exerts a strong influence over the events of the show. Her past and present actions deeply affect the mental states of many of the major characters. The parenting style of Livia Soprano is the source of many of the issues that led to the violent and emotionally unstable behavior of both Tony and Janice. Livia is not just a bad parent, but a toxic one, and her behavior's psychological impact is felt throughout the show. Dr. Melfi diagnoses Livia with borderline personality disorder, characterized by unstable relationships, intense emotions, and lack of compassion. She creates conflict and bitterness among those around her. Later in the show, Tony explains to Janice that Dr. Melfi believes Livia has a narcissistic personality disorder. He mentions that it's unknown why she turned out that way, but that her father, Vito, was not a good role model. Dr. Melfi also notes that Livia is someone who is incapable of experiencing joy. So was Livia a psychopath? When trying to determine a diagnosis for Livia, it's unclear which version of the story is accurate. While narcissistic personality disorder is sometimes associated with a borderline personality disorder, the latter is not always present in the former. Also, the symptoms of someone with a narcissistic personality disorder would differ from someone with borderline personality disorder. When examining the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder, I noticed that Livia certainly seems to meet some of the criteria, which could indicate the presence of this disorder. A primary difference between narcissistic and borderline personalities is that in BPD, people will often idealize others and then quickly devalue them when they're disappointed. Self-harm and suicidal behavior are also consistent with BPD, but not as much in narcissistic personality disorder, where this behavior would not be nearly as common. In considering these differences, Livia's personality appears to be more consistent with a narcissistic personality disorder, as she shows few signs of idealizing others, except referring to her deceased husband as a saint, or any evidence of self-harm. Livia does not appear to have empathy for people and often simply manipulates others for her own self-gain. A more relevant question might be whether Livia displays sociopathic tendencies, as her behavior appears to be malevolent rather than just manipulative. She often seems to take pleasure in others' misfortune and mocks and laughs at her children's failures. She actively encourages the murder of her son, Tony, as a form of revenge or might even envy. This level of vindictiveness and disregard for others' well-being suggests that Livia's issues may extend beyond a personality disorder and into actual psychopathy. It seems fair to say that Livia is in fact an evil person. In the book The Sociopath Next Door by Martha Stout, sociopaths are described as individuals who may not be easily recognizable but may react with extreme hostility when under pressure or threatened. This is true of Livia, who leaves behind a trail of damaged lives, as sociopaths often do. But what do you think of Livia? Do you think she was just a simple narcissistic person, or do you believe she suffered from more than just that? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, if you want to see and hear more about your favorite mob movies and TV shows, make sure to subscribe to my channel.